A very warm welcome to Culinary Canvas, a podcast which is brought to you by Chef Middle East. We're going to have an incredible conversation. However, before we do any of that, don't forget to follow, share and subscribe. We have three incredible powerhouse guests regarding all things education and about sustainability, but human sustainability within this vocation. So without further ado, those guests are going to introduce themselves. Luke, if you may.
Thanks, James. Yeah, I'm Luke. I'm the co-founder and managing partner of Food People. We are the region's leading food recruitment agency, spanning the entire Middle East, at the executive down to managerial level. Originally from the UK. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Jeff?
It's a pleasure to spend some time with you. My name's Jeff. I work at the Dubai College of Tourism, which is essentially a vocational college focused on culinary arts, tourism, hospitality and event management.
Fantastic. And last but not least, Olivier.
Thanks, James. My name is Olivier Rejani, but just call me Oliver. It would be much more easier.
Oliver, right.
I'm the General Secretary of the Fondation Paul Bocuse. As you can hear, I'm French. I'm coming from Lyon, and I'm very happy to be here with you and to discuss about all these wonderful topics.
So, first off the bat, now, gents, once again, thank you very, very much for taking the time to be here. Now, Jeff, the first question is for you. Can you please explain in your words how critical the role of education is and at the same time maintaining culinary traditions?
Two-part question. Thanks for that. The first piece that's really important from our perspective is that we are preparing youngsters, students, for a profession. And the difference here is that word profession. So when you are training someone to be a nurse or an engineer, then we respect that as a profession and we respect the level of education that that professional will have to go through to earn their stripes. The same can be said for the world of culinary arts, in that this is a profession that we're talking about, a heavily respected profession, and therefore to earn your stripes, education is a fundamental building block that sits at the very start of that and hopefully creates this attitude for lifelong learning as someone goes through their life as a chef. I guess the second part of that is related to the profession itself and to culinary arts. Too often, you know, the industry may not be seen in the light of that profession. And therefore, the role that we as educators play goes beyond just the technical skills of culinary arts, but it goes back to a lot of the human skills, the skills that we may refer to as discipline, professional management, timekeeping, grooming, role modeling. So all of that has a role to play within the business of education and preparing people for their careers.
I agree with you, but at the same time, Oliver, when it comes to you, you know, how in your terms, with the foundation that you are in, and it's, you know, one of the most famous in the world, how important are those culinary traditions when it comes to education?
Well, these traditions are fundamentals for us. You know, when we are talking about discipline, when we are talking about rigor, when we are talking about fundamental skills, these are part of our tradition, the way we are also teaching them how these fundamental moves have crossed the centuries. This is part of what we're doing at the foundation. Every year we have about 700 college students attending our workshops, and they pass about 10 Saturdays or 10 Wednesdays with us during 2 or 3 hours. And at the end of this wonderful experience, half of them are saying that they are considering studying culinary or hospitality. As you were saying, is that it's not only techniques, it's tradition is also welcoming tradition, how you are saying hello, how you are smiling to your customer, how you are saying goodbye. So this is what we're doing at the Fondation Paul Bocuse.
We're talking a lot about culinary, but I think the other thing that we need to focus on is the word hospitality, which is incredibly important in what we do. Now, when it comes to the food people, and you're getting these sort of senior level C-suite, whether it's F&B directors or culinary directors, do you see those traditions coming through necessarily? And are they behaving in that professional way?
That's a challenging one straight away, but yeah, I think so. At that level, I think we're going back a couple of generations now. I think we were talking beforehand in terms of what's respected across generations, and we talk about loyalty and respect. I think are words that are synonymous with people at that sort of stage of their career. I think what you crave and what you really want to see with the younger generations is people genuinely having the appetite to coach, mentor, guide people. I think, again, when we're talking about professionals coming out of the education system, it's really important that they're then brought with that industry experience, but it needs to be coached, and that needs to be from people with a genuine passion to do so. And they've got, I don't want to say an obligation, but it's part of what they do, and it should be part of the legacy in terms of where they are.
Look, I agree. I think, and quite rightly, I believe, in my opinion, that it is an obligation for them to pass down that professionalism. But Jeff, what are your thoughts on this?
I think there's two clear pieces to this. When you talk about traditions and you talk about culinary techniques, we're clearly teaching students culinary techniques. So if you want to talk about a subject like the application of heat onto a product, whether that be steaming or boiling or baking, those are culinary techniques and foundations and principles that a student, in order to be able to work, properly in the workplace, needs to understand the concept of that. The whole other side to that are the professional and, I guess, human techniques, right? And you refer to them as core fundamentals within the foundation. What does that mean to know that you're probably going to stand on your feet for 8 to 9 hours a day, and therefore you need to take care of yourself, you need to eat well, you need to rest well, you need to refuel well. Those are also core fundamentals. But I think when we talk about passing on legacy from phenomenal chefs, too often we talk about just passing on culinary techniques and what that means from a technical chefing perspective. But we need to make sure, and it's great to hear the foundation is doing that we're also passing on that role modeling of how to be a wonderful professional. And those are two pieces that I see working hand in hand. And our role within the college is to make sure that we address both of those, not just churning out people who understand technical things, i.e. I know how to bake, but I don't know how to turn up on time. Then you're essentially useless, right? Because you need to be able to turn up on time every day.
But I was going to say, so Oliver, specifically within your foundation, now I understand the transferring culinary knowledge from a theoretical standpoint and also from a practical perspective. But as Jeff was saying, and I want to ask the both of you, how as colleges and as foundations, do you have the time, and is it in the syllabus to have these specific human core hospitality skills, apart from having the rest that is required? Are you doing that? Because I believe it's a really interesting topic.
Well, we are now working of upgrading our referential with something very special that we call the sense of service of Mr. Paul Bocuse. And starting from the beginning, just to say hello or welcome, or just to smile, just fundamentals of human beings. And I have to answer questions very weird, is that why do I have to say hello to somebody? But just ask yourself, why do we have to say hello to somebody? Oh, it's politeness. Okay, but it's not like this. It's I want to make you comfortable. I want to create a positive attitude with you because I want to have a discussion with you. I want to exchange with you. I want to pass a contract with you. So this is hard because this generation, I don't want to blame this generation, but we have to give them some pieces of evidence why human relations are such important and why the customer will have a great experience when he's received in a positive mood with somebody who is well-dressed, well-shaved, with a good perfume and so on. But this is not automatic. You have to understand that the students that we are dealing with, for some of them, they don't have they don't know what it is a family diner, because they know they just taking something in the fridge. That's just eating, on the sofa. They don't have this what we all have here, the opportunity to have a family dinner when you know where the fork is on the left, the knife is on the right, the glass is over there. So we're starting from far, 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 far away. So once again, I'm far away from your question, but yeah, it's not in the official referential, but clearly, as we are now upgrading our portfolio of courses, now we're starting from commis cuisine, and then we will have waiter. I mean, our program will have the same DNA, is that they will have courses about 12 to 24 hours of sense of service with Mr. Paul Bocuse.
I love that.
I want to answer your question. The answer is
please.
yes, categorically yes.
Okay.
And the reason for that is clear. In order to be able to deliver the qualifications that we are entitled to deliver from the Ministry of Education, we have to have an advisory council. And that advisory council, we simply beg of them the question, what would it take if we had a student for a year for them to be employed? And we listen to exactly what they say. Interestingly, 50 to 60% of the feedback are not the culinary skills, right? There are the basic culinary skills. But
50 to 60%.
Correct. Because the things that frustrate them are not their ability to cook. It's the unreliability of they didn't turn up, they're sick, they don't know how to look after themselves. I need reliability. If that's a breakfast chef, and I can't be there 24 hours a day, I need to know that that human is healthy and can turn up at 5 in the morning and prepare the breakfast for me. I'm okay that they might not be great at the eggs right now. I can help them with that. But how reliable are they? You ask yourself, how important is that to your business? Their aptitude with boiling an egg, and I'm being very simple, or their aptitude at consistently being able to turn up on time. Which one's worth more to your business, right? And what's placing your business in more danger? If they don't turn up, right?
Absolutely.
So, yes, 50 to 60%, which is why you'll see in our qualifications a huge module called Preparing for a Career. And you have to think in a lot, in this city, or in Dubai, the students in many ways, as they go through schooling, are handheld. They'll come from their apartment, they'll go down to a bus, they'll be placed on a bus at a certain time. If they don't hit that time, and then they'll fall asleep on the bus, they'll go into school, they'll come back out of school, they'll be transported back to their apartment, and life will go on like that. At 18 years old, I'm saying get yourself somewhere on time. Figure out, does it take 40 minutes to get downstairs, get on a bus, get to the metro, get to college, turn up late for the first 2 weeks? And you're learning responsibility. You're learning to plan at what time to set your alarm clock, at what time to take care of yourself, what time to wake up and put your uniform on. If you're not learning that, and we as a college are not facilitating that, then you'll not be workforce ready.
Because I think the other thing that I sort of see a lot as well is again, not knocking the generations, but it is specifically that. It is about taking full responsibility. And the other part, which I think we're in danger of losing, is the human engagement. Right? Because yes, you're absolutely right. So everybody's got mobile phones. They're not around a dining table where you can have these sorts of conversations. But then again, Luke, when it comes to the specific business that you are in, do you get a lot of these frustrations also from different organizations when it comes to, number one, having that hospitality or that human engagement, and number two, whether these individuals have had the right level of education?
Yeah, definitely. But I think it's two-way. I'll say that. I think there needs to be engagement from both sides. I think the industry craves people that are industry ready, which is a very easy statement to make. But industry on the other side, as in organizations operating within the space, they need to partner with institutions. They need to partner with the public sector, and they need to talk about what it is the gap is. Because again, we talk about culinary expertise. I think, again, we were talking before, I don't think that's the argument here. I think we've got incredibly gifted young talent that's available, but showing up, applying yourself, is something that's discussed a lot. But like I say, there needs to be a two-way engagement here whereby they are communicating what they want. And I think also offering the environment for young talent to come into, express themselves, but also fail and learn. I think there's a degree that these are young professionals. They've got the foundation of their career, but they need to be, I mentioned the word before, they need to be mentored. They need to be in a space where it's okay for them not to know everything. But it's an exchange, right? You've got to show up. But I do think organizations can do more to nurture that talent through.
So then if we dig into that a little bit, and I want to talk about those solutions, because I think this is a key fundamental that not just educational sort of hierarchies have to deal with it is also much larger organizations. So Luke, you talk to, specific people, owners, very, very high up CEOs. If you were to put this to them, would they be receptive to that?
I think the challenge is that this region is always perceived to be a transient market. I think the conversation comes up too much, an old adage, but what if I invest in these individuals and they leave? I think it's well known in this part of the world that tenure within employment is shorter than probably other areas of the world. What would they say? I think they're highly demanding in terms of what they want. Are they willing to persevere? I'm not sure. I think the cost of doing business in this part of the world is high. It's a demanding environment. People want results really quickly. So are you willing to sort of invest the time in building that environment that I talked to before? I'm not sure. I think a lot of it, to be honest, comes down to who is the owner and or CEO, what's their background, what have they come up through. I think if it's a owner-operated concept where somebody's come up through the ranks and gone through that experience, I think they would want to collaborate more and think about this topic a lot more. If it's if we're in a dangerous situation where there's a non-F&B individual managing, leading a business, I think it can quickly get lost.
Look, the other thing I wanted to sort of also mention is, of course, we now here have the global sort of eyes upon the region, especially with Michelin being here. And of course, we know that they're an incredibly prestigious organization to be around. But at the same time, when it comes to partnerships, and specifically this part of the world, I see a lot of young people from all over the world wanting to come here, wanting to spend time. But then I want to ask you, Jeff, from your point of view, how can we target education and also align with different brands to basically have that entire ecosystem become the very best that it can be? Not just as we already know within Europe, for example, we know that they're very strong there. But if we focus on now, hospitality is a hotbed and everyone wants to be here. However, we still have a long way to go in terms of that human piece. Also and I love this sense of service. I think that is absolutely brilliant, which is what we require. But how can we do that as an overall ecosystem?
Sure, that's a great question, and the use of the word partnerships it summarizes this challenge perfectly. Look, we all know that we're a very young market, but very quickly evolving. The other piece that we know is we're probably one of the most aspirational markets on earth. You're 100% right, Chef, in that people just want to get here, and they'll really work hard to get here. However, there's a few pieces that we had to put together, I think, as an industry to facilitate bringing these very aspirational students and future chefs into the industry. First one was creating a framework that allowed them to come in. Fortunately now, through the College of Tourism, we have a framework which allows the delivery of an apprenticeship program. So it allows the chefs, the leaders, to be able to get hands and work in the kitchen. So if you imagine in the olden days, you were hiring someone in from, let's just say, Southeast Asia on a 2-year contract. And yes, it's very transient. So you would offer them a 2-year contract. They make it or they don't make it, but they've been given 2 years. But they come in with very little structure, and they might leave after 2 years with a bit of experience, but no qualification. Now, you can bring them into the kitchen, same, for 2 years, and give them apprenticeship structure and allow them to follow a curriculum and get guidance from the college. And worst case, what happens at the end of 2 years is that student leaves with a qualification. You've given them something. Now, I bet if I asked every single one here, who gave you your first break ever, you remember their name. Mm-hmm. You remember, whether the guy that gave you your first newspaper round, your first job, you remember that person for your whole life. If we give them a qualification, they will remember that company forever. And it might be a great way for that company to retain that talent. Now, that infrastructure did not exist 2 years ago, right? We did not have a national qualification system and framework that allowed that to happen. We didn't have an agreement with the Ministry of Human Resources that allowed the person to be employed as an apprentice. But we now have that. So they literally can be employed on a commie salary as an apprentice, study a curriculum, get a qualification, and at least graduate with something and perhaps be valuable to the organisation for the long run. So we have moved forward quickly, and we are able to now welcome these students that really aspire to be here in Dubai and offer solutions that hopefully address the challenges that you raised.
Oliver, your foundation is, again, one of the most sought after in the world. Now, when you're over here, within the Middle East, what are your takes within, hospitality and the things that are happening here, not just within education, but also within restaurants, hospitality, hotels, so on and so forth?
This region is aspiring a lot of talents, but we were talking about how they can succeed here because, well, I believe in foundation programs, definitely. Is that to help them to have this regional approach that we were talking before. I will talk globally. We are looking for hundreds thousands of resources all around the world, especially here, how to create loyalty. I believe again in education, and I invite all the partners to understand that if they want to keep their resources, they have to also train them, give them the opportunity to perform more, to maybe travel a little bit. That's what we are thinking about. Thinking about this in the Bocuse Group is that you might know that we are about to open a restaurant in Abu Dhabi, Mr. Paul. So we are clearly now working of giving the opportunity to our commis to spend 2 or 3 months in France to learn some new techniques, to also to learn the DNA of our group. And the main idea is to make them become chefs and to open some new restaurant in the area. But it's a little bit secret for the moment.
No, but I mean, again, congratulations on that, because I think it's absolutely phenomenal. But the other one that I think is also really important, and Jeff, you mentioned collaboration. Now again, to pose the question to all of you, how important is collaboration between culinary institutions such as yourselves and hospitality businesses? So Jeff, if you can take the lead on this one first, please.
The industry is nothing without collaboration. So the student, we call them students, you call them staff or chefs, they want to be employed. So the key goal here is that we have to make them workforce ready. In order to make them workforce ready, we have to listen to the industry, and professionals like yourself, chef, will tell us what you expect of an entry-level student. We have to hear that. That's the first point of collaboration.
And not to interrupt you, but I want to understand, has that happened? Are chefs being truthfully honest?
Yes.
And for the both of you, are they really telling you, look, this is what we really require? This is what we see currently, and this is where we need to get to.
Yes, they are. Chefs are not shy in coming forward. So they will tell you what they want. Now, what's also a critical part of this collaboration is they are the future employer. And what we must not forget now is that word of mouth is easy to spread with our devices. So if there is someone inside their kitchen who's not advocating for their job or their employment, that word of mouth will spread. So that chef, that executive chef, can be as vociferous as they want about what they would like to get. But if they're not providing the professionalism and the role modeling and the environment, which is a great place to work, guess what? No one will go and work there. So there's 400,000 jobs over here.
100%. But what I mean, I want to understand.
That's really important as well.
I want to understand, how often does that happen? The chef is basically asking, look, I want 1, 2, 3. It's really important that I have professional students or apprenticeships, whatever it may be. And are they actually acting upon that? Are they being professional themselves? Oliver?
Well, I'm talking of French point of view, because we have a long experience with apprenticeship, because it's tax paid and so on. So if you want to welcome one of the students as an apprentice, you need to follow courses during 2 days to be a mentor. And you have to accept that, because part of the success is that on one hand, you have the official referential, the catalog of courses, well, very interesting stuff. But on the other hand, you have this practical approach that is very important. And if there is not a good symbiosis between the referential and the mentor in the organization, it doesn't work. And moreover, it could be a nightmare, because you can lose some of your future star that could be discussed. It could be a disgusting experience for them. So we have to be very serious with that. Most of the schools, we can say that this is not a secret. We have some blacklist, because some of them, they are not good mentors. They are less than that, and maybe some odd words with. So it's really a three-party contract between the apprentice, the educational organization, and finally the professional organization. If it doesn't work, it could be a nightmare. If it works, it could be very successful. And good mentor encourage loyalty encourage good word of mouth, encourage a lot of, it's a virtual, it's a successful circle for everybody. And moreover, very important is that we have also another important point is to promote our business, our sector to young students, because once they are in high school, sometimes it's over because they have decided to go in a high education system, and for some of them, when parents or lawyer, doctors, engineers. For some of them, it could be menial jobs. So you have to plant the seed the sooner. And that's one of the reasons we want to implement our workshop over there with college students from, 12 to 15, just to give them the idea. You don't want to spend your whole day in a desk. You want to meet people. You want every day will be different from the other one. Just think about the hospitality. And if I may, this restaurant, this organization that we are capable to work with, they have to offer the opportunity to have a 5 days training period just to tell them what is going on in the kitchen, because for some of them, they're just customers. It's also the same in hospitality. So training period, workshop to promote our system. Once they are in the educational part, finding the good organization, good mentors, and it's a successful approach, I guess.
Absolutely, but it goes back to what Luc was saying earlier on, is that that mentoring, that coaching, it seems to be a thread which is super important from a super young age, I mean, right through to now even. But Luc, from your point of view, do you see sort of many larger hotel groups or institutions wanting to go down culinary partnerships?
I think in short, yeah. I think there is that appreciation that only through interacting with one another will they resolve the problem. I think, again, we go into the lines of business versus the things that you aspire or want to have. Businesses are businesses with P&Ls to manage. But I think every organization that we interact with sees collaboration, sees engagement with institutions, education systems, anything that will help support this challenge of a lack of talent, a lack of immediately available qualified talent. It's a problem for the entire industry. So I think unless you do tackle it together, and there's some great groups out here, I engage with these guys today. There's a UAE restaurant group that helps bring the industry together as well and gives people a voice and a stage to vocalize. It's really important that we're engaging this youth through collaboration to the point. You talk about using social media and the way in which we talk to these individuals. We've got to bring these people to our sector. We've got to make them aware that hospitality is not just serving people. And in this part of the world, I think, traditionally that may be the perception of the industry. And, we're living with a generation that are really purpose driven, and they want to work in industries that they enjoy. And when they're talking to their friends, they're proud of operating within. Again, through collaboration can really enhance the industry, get people talking, get people working together and genuinely trying to find solutions that benefit both sides.
But if you take and again, Luc, for you, if you take a bird's eye view, you've been doing this job for 16 years, you've seen a lot. You engaged with obviously a lot of people from both sides. Specifically when it comes to this part of the world, what would you say are sort of the biggest challenges when it comes to sort of hiring and seeing those sort of larger corporations understand the importance of education?
Yeah, again, I think it's expensive to do business here, right? So we were talking actually earlier how much importance is played if somebody's recruiting a culinary director. How much importance does a business put on their actual education, where their journey began, where they got the foundation and the fundamentals, versus what they're going to judge on a 2-day food trial. That is essentially their capability and their skill level today. Again, earlier we were talking how much emphasis is put on the technical capability of an individual versus their cultural fit. And I talk cultural fit like this. It's different for every business, right? And different stakeholders in every business will have a different perception on a human being. But we talked earlier, what are we actually looking for in an individual? You know, are we aspiring to find unicorns that simply don't exist? Or are we understanding that constantly throughout a human being's journey, there's always an element of growth? So do we look for somebody who is 70%, 80% of the way there in terms of their fit, whereby the organization is then going to put their hand up and say, okay, well, we're going to coach, we're going to teach you the other 20% because you clearly bring a skill set that's going to move us forward. But again, we come back to two-way street. And our company's willing to do that. It's such a demanding, high-paced environment that if you don't thrive, you die in Dubai, right? I don't know the exact number on how many restaurants open every day and close every day. But ultimately, you've got to deliver. But I'm obviously going to have a biased opinion. I think people are the differentiators in business, and therefore you have to commit to them. You have to invest in them.
Jeff, what are your thoughts on this?
We're living through a very, very, very interesting time. So we're making a lot of reference points to historical evolution, particularly of Dubai, where everything that we kind of lived through for the last 10 years or so was serviced from talent that we have flown in, whether that be executive chefs, whether that be service staff, whether that be front office, hotel staff. They were recruited to come into Dubai. Those people who were recruited to come into Dubai 15, 20 years ago are still residents of Dubai and have created families here. And what we have to keep in mind is that we have our future workforce growing up here now. They're not outside. So they are watching you every day. And I think this professionalism and this ability for the industry to get into schools, and if a youngster, 12, 13 years old, is looking at industries, do I want to be a pilot? I see a one going to the airport. I see his stripes. I see what he looks like. He has a nice white shirt on. He puts his hat on. He's a pilot. I can tell. He's visible. Those are professions that everybody is competing for. If there are 30 kids in a grade 13 class, how many of them are saying, I want to be in that profession? Because the profession is visible. The profession looks slick. The profession goes to work in a nice place, is a credible employer. So our future workforce is living right next to us. They're not outside coming in anymore. They're growing up. There are 350,000 kids in school in Dubai today watching every single industry in the city and what it could look like as a future employer. That was very different 10, 15 years ago when your workforce was outside and they were reading your blurb on a recruitment website and you were persuading them to come in, right? And I think this is the big difference that we're living through. And if our human resources colleagues are not realizing that we are, as an industry, visible and on show, then we're really missing a beat, because we're going to lose and not even compete for that talent. So we have to keep in mind this constant need to be professionals and to role model, to be able to recruit that talent, to put them through an educational funnel and into the industry.
Oliver, for yourself, you said something really interesting earlier on, that when you're sort of recruiting early on, and I'm saying, from the ages of 12 to 15 years old, I want to understand, you know, the scary part for me is that in some ways, some people are saying that the culinary industry is dying out. Obviously, we have AI coming in, we have robots coming in. People don't necessarily want to be in kitchens for 10 to 15 hours of the day. Same within restaurants. However, if I just may ask you, you know, again, planting that seed, you know, you've got social media, TikTok, all of those sorts of things happening, distractions all the time, but actually getting to the schools and engaging those high school students from the age of 12 to 15, I just would like to sort of ask, how do you do that? Because I think it's a really beautiful thing to do because making, and I'm going to be very generalist here, making something incredibly basic, such as bread for 3 hours, and you've never ever made it in your life, that is something that will carry with you for the rest of your life. So I want to understand, how do you guys do that as a foundation?
So, well, we have to make a distinction. Once we are going outside and we are welcoming, college students.
Sure.
But this is the second part. It's when the plant is now growing a little bit. So first of all, my major, when I'm going in a college, I have only two objectives. First of all, who is Paul Bocuse?
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't know who is it, even if they are French. I mean, 1 over 20 college knows Paul Bocuse. For them, it is Gusto in Ratatouille, you know, the Walt Disney book. So first I have to explain them who is Paul Bocuse, why he is so iconic, chef of the last century and so on, soup Valéry Giscard d'Estaing. They don't even know who is Valéry Giscard d'Estaing, so I have to work on that. They think that Valéry Giscard d'Estaing was his wife, you know, because Valéry in French could be a girl's name.
Right.
And second is to just make them think that there is a real opportunity to work in this business, and just asking them some question. Do you want to work in an office? Do you like team working? Do you have an artistical approach? Do you like to work under pressure? Just think about what is going on here. This is what I do during 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, no more than that. I'm not succeeding at all, but if I can convince 1, 2, 3 of them, this is a real victory. And once they are in our workshop, this is the chef approach. As we are only welcoming 10 to 12 students, well, it's quite easy to make something very personal with them and to take time, because this is what it is about. You have to listen to them, have to explain to them, because you have to convince finally 3 actors: the students, parents, and the teachers. Because for some of them, choosing a vocational program is not a real success. You have to go and pass your A level, to go to your HND, bachelors, and so on. And especially in France, we call it filière générale, general approach. But you want to learn culinary, but why did you go to the general college now, high school, and then you will think about that. So we have to also work with the teachers, because for some of them, they are a little bit stubborn about what is going on with this business. So when you are talking about employability, when we are talking about they can earn some money while they are studying, and the program is totally paid by the government, this could be a real opportunity also for the families. So this is what we are doing, and it works. And also some basic thing, we are just welcoming them to visit our restaurant, to make them the opportunity to have a one-day experience with one of our chefs. So now we are talking about also mentoring, and also what is great with the Bocuse group is that now our chef, our meilleur ouvrier de France, the one with the French flag here on the collar, this is part of what they have signed for. They are supposed to promote the sector. So they are also encouraging the other chef to do the same. So I'm very happy to work with them. It has been long, because they have to understand that recruiting new resources cost a lot for the restaurant, around 2,000-3,000 euros per new chef and so on. And also we are losing some experience curve and knowledge about the group. So now they are understanding, because the human capital is now in our figures. So well, if we are not doing this, maybe it would be very hard to maintain some of our restaurants, because I don't know if it happens here, but some of restaurants are closing because they are not finding good resources, waiters and cooks, and they finally close the restaurants. Well, even in France.
Well, you know, that's also incredibly interesting, because it just means that, you know, going back to our original point where the lack of talent is not there. But Jeff, from your point of view, and I know that you're working extremely closely with the educational sector here, but when it comes to the specific sort of high schools, are you as an organization, are you actually going in yourselves and talking about these sort of hospitality programs?
Yes, we have a team that just does that. And I think this is one of the areas where we can enormously increase collaboration, because we are essentially going in as the sole voice advocating for careers in our industry, whether that be in culinary arts, in hospitality, in tourism, or in events. It would be wonderful to take members of the culinary community into these schools. And I can tell you, I stand there, I'm not a chef, but I stand there and they'll ask me, what car do you drive? How much money do you earn? And they're making a profession or a academic decision based on those opportunities, and they will compare, you know, should I follow a career in that, and how quickly can I earn that money? And these kids have access to all the information they need, so they can quickly go online and see a job posted and see how much money it earns. And they will quickly figure out, can I do that in 5 years, 6 years? Is that within my capability to earn that kind of money? But we are going in there talking about those subjects, but what we really need are the professionals, the role models, the people who are living it, the people who are on the ground every day, because they want to ask the questions, what's it like in a kitchen for 8 hours? Are you really tired? Are you dehydrated? Do you love it? They want to ask these questions, but we as a college are answering those on behalf of the industry. And if we could get that level of collaboration, and we're in schools pretty much every day from September until December, that's the peak decision-making season, then it would really, really help to lift again the perception of the industry.
So as an organization, how are you going to go about doing exactly just that? I mean, how can the industry sort of help and get more involved?
So we do have our experiential learning team. So that team's job is firstly to connect students with jobs and with internships and with apprentices. So they are the conduit that connects the college with the industry. Then we have another team that goes out to the schools. So schools have career days, information days, visiting faculty from the college that can go in there. We would be delighted to be able to take a chef out of the business, but again, it comes back down to the want to be able to go out and say, yeah, I'll give over a couple of hours of my time to go to. We have schools here with 16,000 students in them. I mean, I've gone there and stood in an auditorium with 1,000 kids and talked about a career in tourism or hospitality. It would be great to say, I'll give up 2 hours of my time and I'll put my uniform in and I'll come and talk about my time going through college and into working in the restaurant and how I moved and how long it took me to progress through the culinary brigade. For us to facilitate that, it's very easy. We have the team to do that. I know they will be busy every day making school visits, but the more we could have the industry collaborate with us on that, the better it would be for all of us.
Because the other thing, and I'm going to give you direct feedback, all of you, on something which I think is quite interesting. Obviously, since the rise of television, let's say Netflix, MasterChef, so on and so forth, and there are millions of programs around the world, which are either promoting culinary or hospitality and this sort of thing. But I want to talk about the skills gap, because what seems to have happened, especially over the sort of past 10 years, and I'm not trying to sound old, but back in the day, you would have to really do and earn your miles as a chef in order to get promoted and all of that sort of thing. Whereas now what a lot of the chefs are telling me is that, the apprentices are finishing their apprenticeships and straight away they're, either watching TikTok, Instagram or whatever, and they want to go straight away into a sort of superior or supervisor sort of level, chef de partie, so on and so forth. I just want to understand, Luke, from your point of view, do you get that feedback at all from sort of the F&B or culinary directors that, because there's that, they need so much talent to come through, but we have such a lack of it when it comes to sort of physical manning. Are they just having to put up with it and say, yes, come on board straight away?
I think, yeah, probably to a degree, because you can't continually fight against talent going to other industries, and or not, as we mentioned before, seeing the opportunity of long-term growth. That is something that's on the minds of everybody. We're living in a world of influencers, where this generation that we're looking and we're seeking to attract and aspire, live in that world of influencers, and they see the Ferraris, they see the Maldives, they see all these nice things. And we can talk forever about how hard work pays and how important experience is. And I'm a genuinely believer in that. I think you can't buy experience. That's a term that I'll use over and over again. You've got to earn that. You've got to gain that. And to me, that's something that's special as part of your journey in life. You fail, you learn, you grow, and that's how you develop and achieve. But is there any way around it? I think by co-creating schemes with academia, with institutions, where, again, the industry gets the opportunity to talk and say, this will be beneficial for us to try and help not just attract, but retain talent. I think that's the conversation here. It's not just about attracting, it's retaining. And these guys will feel the pains of people coming in and leaving too quickly. They'll have an appreciation of why they move on so quickly. I think that feedback has got to go back into the system so we can build programs where they're engaged, where they're motivated, where they're inspired. Back to your question, I think you've got to embrace it. I think it's there. Yeah.
But I think it's a tricky one, obviously, because at the same time, the other thing, and I'm going to go back to distractions. The other thing that we have nowadays is the mobile phone. You're in the middle of service, and people are just on the phone, wherever, when you're actually, again, I'm going to go back to this because I think it's brilliant, sense of service. You should be of service to your guest, right? At the end of the day, that's what we're all here for. It doesn't matter who you are as a chef or hospitality professional, you're in the service industry, right? Not of service to a mobile phone, but it seems to be the other way around sometimes. So how can we fight this? Do you think that's possible, or we have to just deal with it?
I'm going to answer your first question because they're related.
Mm-hmm.
How long has the structure of a kitchen brigade been in place? How long have we had this structure of hierarchy?
Auguste Escoffier,
Exactly, yeah.
Give me the year.
19th century.
19th century, okay? But now we're talking about phones on tables and telling me a kitchen brigade, tell that to an 18-year-old that a rule from the 19th century applies today. They will tell you you're nuts, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we're asking them to comply with a kitchen brigade structure that was invented in the 19th century. Explain that. You can welcome to come to our college and explain it to an 18-year-old. They will sit and look at you like, okay, life's changed.
Mm.
We have to accept that things have changed and are changing. And I'll tell you what else we have to accept. If you bring someone in straight from college and you tell them you now need to stand here for 3 years as a commie and apply yourself to get that guy's job as a sous, and they look at that one and they say, to behave like that, I need to wait 3 years. what's that saying about the leadership of the structure of the brigade, right? You mean I have to behave like that to get promoted to be like that? And this goes back to the professionalism, the role modeling, the longevity, the retention. There are many phenomenal things about the industry, but we also have to realize time has changed. They can walk out. We're talking about 400,000 vacancies in France. They can walk out. There are other industries that want them, and they know that. But we're still losing ourselves in structure, time served. You can't do that before you've done that. And it doesn't make sense to them. It might make sense to us. It doesn't make sense to them. That's that. Now, we also have to accept that the phone is in our lives. Last night I was in a restaurant. I watched the table come in, a couple, sat down, had an argument. Both of them went on their phones, probably dropped over 1,000 dirhams and didn't talk. The waiter was having a horrible time because he was trying to entertain what was clearly a tense relationship and he couldn't be of service. But in my opinion, and watching him feel the energy of that table, back away, clear the plates, take the orders when he could, and try to navigate that, he was being of service. And I think in observing that waiter, he did a phenomenal job because he was not getting any love back from that table, you know. And obviously we're in the business. I could really empathize with him thinking, you know. But that's again what we're living in. Would I love to see the rules, drop the phone at the table, you two have a conversation? That would be life. Yes.
Lock it away.
I would love to see that. But unfortunately, that's what we're living with at this time.
What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think the only place where the success comes before work is in the dictionary. So first of all, you have to work. Mm-hmm. And then talking about the phone, I think part of the disaffection of the sector comes also from the customers. Because for some of them, as they are watching some programs on TV, they think they have the universal taste in the mouth. So they can criticize everything because they have seen a show. And moreover, they are not considering the team working for them. That's exactly what you were talking about. And not respecting them. So this is part, we have to also educate our customers to understand that it is a contract, a 2 hours contract, a 3 hours contract. They don't have to stay 4 or 5 hours when they see chairs on tables, and they understand that the team have to rest and so on. So education is everywhere. That's my point of view. And also to make them understand that this is one of the sector where you can have the better marks at schools and so on. It just gives you the opportunity to work, but the challenge comes with your first job. So, and you have to accept that, because thanks to this, you will have you will be credible for the rest of your mates.
So, gents, just before we wrap up, I just want to give you a small story. Just recently, I spoke to 2 clinical psychologists, and we were talking about hospitality, of course. And I was saying, actually, if you really think about it on a deeper level, and my first sort of waiter's job, I was around 15, 16. By the end of my tenure, I was actually a psychologist, because as soon as the couple or the guest walked into the restaurant, I automatically knew how to deal with them, how to engage, all of those sorts of things. So again, when it comes to this sense of service and what you're both sort of saying, I think there is that psychology and that sociology sector again comes with sort of engaging those people, and it's really important. And again, this is an industry that I really love because not just the food and things like that, but because of the humans. And Jeff, that sort of situation that you just mentioned about the couple, I think it's restaurants are a place of joy, and it should be where that team should take you away. But again, it comes right back through to that educational part, through and through, which is really incredible. So, gents, On behalf of Chef Middle East, this has been Culinary Canvas. Thank you ever so much for your time. It's been absolutely phenomenal to have you here. We will add all of your details in the show notes so that people can have a look at your organizations. Thank you so much. My name is James Knight Pacheco. I have been your host. And don't forget to follow, share, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. This has been Culinary Canvas. Thank you so much.